I'm Debbie Peveril, and you're listening to the weekly tip from basicboardgovernance.ca. This whole month, I've been talking about fiduciary duty and the procedures that need to be in place for a board member to satisfy or discharge their fiduciary duty. So fiduciary duty means that you have a responsibility for making sure that the funds of the organization are spent in a prudent manner with a view to the best interests of the organization. So these types of duties are discharged by a bunch of policies and procedures. So the first one we talked about was making sure you had an annual budget that was approved by the board, and the budget said how you were going to achieve the goals of the organization. The second tip was about making sure the financial statements were tied in to the budget so that you're able to monitor whether you're getting where you want to be by comparing actual to the budget. Last week we talked about internal controls. Internal controls are rules like one person can't sign a check in order to make an expenditure on their own. And when you have good internal controls, you're less likely to be defrauded by anyone, and you also have more accurate financial statements. So that means that you've got a better comparison going on. So this last tip in this area of fiduciary duty is the right of the board to rely on experts. So the experts we're talking about in this case would be financial experts, notably people who are trained in Canada. They would be CPAs. Of course, in the States, they're CPAs as well, but it stands for different things. These are people who are allowed to do audits and review engagements of people's financial statements. So if your accountant is truly an expert, someone who is licensed, then you are entitled to rely on their opinion. And you won't be considered to be negligent or not to have discharged your duty if you are relying on an expert. So what do you want this expert to do? For many organizations, not-for-profits, who I'm usually talking to, you probably want an audit, because that's the highest level of assurance you can get that there's nothing wrong with your financial statements. The auditor will say your financial statements are prepared in accordance with accounting standards. You could, however, decide you only need a review engagement, which costs less money, but it's also less assurance. A review engagement says nothing has come to our attention that causes us to believe these statements are not in accordance with the accounting standards. So that's not quite as strong an opinion, but if you're not that worried about your numbers, it's a more cost-effective solution. So whichever way you go, if you're sitting on a not-for-profit board, you want to be sure that your board has someone with an accounting license who looks at the financial statements and offers you their expert opinion.